All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to get into the duel between CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson. The Texans narrowly beating the Colts 29-27. So let me pull up the stats of both quarterbacks. Again, this was one of the best games of the weekend. Now, they didn't throw for a ton of yards, but they both made their fair share of plays. Like C.J. Stroud at one point, it was on 4th and 1 earlier in the game. He slipped, and it looked like the Texans were going to turn it over on downs, but he still completed a pass on his knees to get the first down. Threw a couple of touchdown passes to Stephon Diggs, and then for Anthony Richardson, he had a rushing touchdown in this game, but also that 60-yard bomb to Alec Pierce. That was unbelievable. I mean, already you see, if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, the Colts, they might have their quarterback. But again, that goes back to, you don't want to overreact because it's week 1. But still, you saw what he did last year in the limited amount of games that he played in. And already, you see what he does here in this game. I mean, if he could continue to play like that, the Colts might have their guy. And I would lean towards saying they do have their guy. But again, you want to see that full body of work. But yeah, this game was competitive. The score at the half, the Texans were up 12-7. Colts outscored them 6-3 in the third quarter. And then both teams scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. But yeah, so the Colts on their first drive, they turned it over on downs. The Texans on their first drive, they kicked a field goal to make it 3-0. Then, like I said, that 60-yard pass to Alec Pierce, that opened up the scoring for the Colts. That made it 7-3. Texans then responded with a field goal of their own. And then we went into the second quarter. Texans got their first touchdown. C.J. Stroud connected with Nico Collins for 55 yards. Got down there in the red zone, and Stephon Diggs from 9 yards out scores a touchdown. They went for 2 with Joe Mixon, and he was not able to get into the end zone. Anthony Richardson did turn the ball over in this game. The interception, when I was watching the highlights before, it was not great. Don't really know what happened on that. Miscommunication or just a bad throw. But that ended up being a turnover. And that's how the first half ended. So, yeah, 12-7 at the half. Then the Texans opened up with a field goal, another one. The Colts punted. Actually, this is what could have changed the momentum of the game. Because the Texans' punt got blocked, and the Colts cashed in their first play on that drive. Jonathan Taylor scored from 5 yards out to make it 15-13. But then the Texans scored a touchdown on their next drive. Actually, Stroud threw an interception, but there was defensive holding. So, that could have been huge, but Colts ended up getting penalized on that play. Joe Mixon from 3 yards out, who had a monster game. That made it 22-13. Then in the fourth quarter, Colts scored a touchdown. Anthony Richardson to Duel in from 54 yards out. Again, another big play by this Colts offense. So that made it 22-20. But then the Texans responded again. And that was Diggs' second touchdown of the game there. That drive was 11 plays, 70 yards, 7.5 minutes of time of possession. And then the Colts scored a touchdown again. Richardson connected with Pierce again for 57 yards. And then he scored a rushing touchdown on 4th and goal from 3 yards out. And there was about 2 minutes left in the game, but the Texans were able to ice it. On 3rd and 11, Stroud connected with Nico Collins for a 12-yard completion, and that basically iced the game. Well, then Joe Mixon ran it a few times, and then that really iced the game. And the final score ended up being 29-7. Stroud, as you see his numbers there, he went 24 of 32. Joe Mixon, huge game for the Texans in his debut with his new team. 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. if that's the Joe Mixon that the Texans are going to get, I mean, that is huge for this team. Nico Collins did his thing against the Colts. 6 receptions for 117 yards. Tank Dell, in his first game back, 3 receptions for 40 yards. Also had a 17-yard run. I don't really want to say carry, but yeah, 17-yard run. He had 2 runs in this game. But yeah, the 17-yard run was big at one point for them. And Stephon Diggs, 6 receptions for 33 yards, but he had the 2 touchdowns. And then as for the Colts, Anthony Richardson only went 9 of 19. That's the first time I've seen it. I didn't realize he didn't throw the ball that much. Also ran the ball for 56 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had 48 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Alec Pierce had a huge game. 3 receptions for 125 yards and a touchdown. And Ashton Doolin had 1 reception for 54 yards. That was for the touchdown. Michael Pittman only had 4 receptions for 31 yards in this game. Colts defense had 4 sacks in this game on Stroud. So, they were applying pressure. DeForest Buckner had a sack and a half. And Kwity Payne had a sack as well. So you got to like that they were getting pressure on Stroud, even though, he was able to make some plays in this game. And the Texans defense had a couple of sacks in this game as well. But, look, when you look at week 1 and you see how the Titans played and how the Jaguars played, the Jaguars, well, actually, the Titans and the Jaguars should have won. Well, more so the Titans. The Titans were up 17-0, and they blew their lead. And Jaguars blew their lead, too. We could have saw, 3 1-0 teams in this division, but we see 3 0-1 teams and 1 1-0 team, and that's the Texans, who, I picked to win the division. There's a lot to like, though, from what you saw from both quarterbacks. I picked Stroud to win MVP. Tried to be different, although Josh Allen, with his performance that he had on Sunday, that's why a lot of people picked him, and obviously you got Mahomes as well. But, there's a lot to like. I didn't realize that Anthony Richardson only went 9 of 19, but he threw for he made the most out of those 9 completions, especially to Alec Pierce and to Doolin. But yeah, I think there's a lot to like about the Colts as well. The Texans are a very good team. But the Colts could be a team, there's people that picked them to make the playoffs. I didn't. They're going to be hanging around, though, for it. It wouldn't surprise me if they make it. But, if Anthony Richardson, continues to play like he did, obviously the interception was bad, but, that's going to happen. And obviously people have their concerns, but he's coming back from the shoulder injury. And, we don't want to see him get hurt again. But running the football is a part of his game, and you're going to continue to see that. So with that, combined with the explosive plays, throwing the football, this Colts offense is going to be good. And they did it against the Texans, a team that is going to be very good this year and is the favorites to win the AFC South. So I like what I saw from Anthony Richardson, and hopefully he continues to perform. They take on the Packers next week without Jordan Love, so I like the Colts' chances in that game. And then for the Texans, they take on the Bears on Sunday Night Football. And we'll see if the Bears' offense can really get it going, because it was really about their special teams and their defense as to why they won the game. Caleb Williams was not great in his debut, but again, it's his first game. It's his first NFL game. Got to give him more runway. So I anticipate we're going to see a different Bears offense than what we saw on Sunday. But one of the things that people were talking about was the offensive line for the Bears and how it just was not doing well. And against the Texans, and you got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., the Bears are going to have, Bears offensive line is going to have their hands full. So, but yeah, one of the best games of the weekend with these two quarterbacks. And look, I know it's only 1 week, but it could come down to these two teams for that division. I already said the Titans were going to be a team that finished in last place, but I'm still not going to give up on the Jags just yet. They still got, look, we got a long season. All right, it's only week 1, but it could come down to the Colts and the Texans for the division. I mean, like I said, I already had the Titans finishing in last, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Very exciting game. And that's one of the cons about being at a football game is you miss all of the other games. You don't. I mean, you could keep up with the scores on your phone, but you're missing all these highlights and things like that. You're not able to watch Red Zone at the game. So, and boy, do I wish that I was able to watch these games, because the game that I saw on Sunday was not great. And we are actually going to talk about that game because, I know I brought it up a little bit yesterday, but I just wanted to get into that game and give you my thoughts on it. The Giants and the Vikings. We're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about the performance by Daniel Jones as well. A lot to cover with this game. And again, we did more than scratch the surface with this past week of football, but we still got more stuff to talk about. And that's why tomorrow we still got a few things I want to cover. Josh Allen's performance on Sunday, the Steelers and their performance, and I'm trying to remember there was another game that I also wanted to cover that I didn't get, that I haven't had a chance to, that I wanted to get into. I remember. I'll make sure to go through the slate in the break and come back to you guys because there was another game that I wanted to cover tomorrow. But yeah, we'll get into that when we come back from break. I'm gonna go do a quick dive into the slate and see what I'm missing. But I know Josh Allen and the Steelers, they're on tap for tomorrow. But I'll take a look at what the other game I was thinking about. But I'll get back to you guys when we come back from break. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.